Hi guys, welcome to another monthly reading log. If you're new here, here is where I tell you what volumes I read this month and my general reactions to them. Pretty excited for this video and to share my thoughts with you guys because I read quite a few different series and quite a lot as well in comparison to my other past reading months. I think because this month I read a lot of great series and so I read multiple volumes of a couple series. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get started. So the first volume that I read this month is Bakuman Volume 2. And so I read Volume 1 last month and I read Volume 2 this month, and this continues to be an absolute great series. Just from Volume 1 I was hooked, and so I had to dive into the second volume, and the only reason why I only stopped at Volume 2 and didn't read more was because this is actually pretty word dense series. There are a lot of words on each page, as you can see, in comparison to other manga series. And yeah, so I read most of my manga at nighttime after a long day of work, so I tend to not pick up Bakuman as a late night read because it does strain the eyes a little bit for myself, but this is an absolutely great series. I think in Volume 2 we get a deeper dive into their work and their passion, the main characters and their story, to getting their own published manga. And I think this series really teaches the readers a lot about the manga industry. There are so many things that I've never thought about that goes into creating a manga. It really makes you appreciate how manga is created and the ideas and art behind everything. And yeah, it was really interesting how this volume really focused on their interactions with the editor in the agency and how they work together to basically improve the manga that they're working on. And in this volume, as the story goes further and further on, these characters learn more and more about themselves and also about the industry, and it's just really heartwarming to see them working so hard. So just from reading the first two volumes the past 2 months, I can already tell that this series is going to be a really great one, and I have up to Volume 6, so I can't wait to read this further on. It definitely just takes me a while to get through these because they are so text heavy. But yeah, the art is great and the text is interesting. It definitely doesn't bore you. It just takes a little bit more effort to read, I guess. Yeah. Alright, and then the next series that I read is, of course, Tokyo Ghoul Volumes 8 and 9, the last final volumes that I had. These two volumes were absolutely wonderful. I really love Tokyo Ghoul. From reading the past couple volumes, the series is amazing, and I really do get why people say the manga is better than the anime now. The manga just does so well in portraying emotion. I think I said this in my last one too, but yeah, warning, spoilers ahead. If you haven't read Tokyo Ghoul yet, or you just don't want spoilers in general, please fast forward this part because I'm going to flip through a couple pages. So yeah, here we kind of get to see the after effects of Kaneki's descent into madness after the cliffhanger on Volume 7 of Kaneki going berserk after the torturing with Jason. So yeah, this volume particular, Volume 8, we got to know more about Aogiri Tree and the research facility and the CCG. So yeah, this was a very wonderfully written volume and it got me hooked from the first page to the last page. And so of course after reading 8, I couldn't stop there, so I ended up reading Volume 9 as well, which happens to be the last volume that I have of this series, but I will definitely be picking up the rest later, and I already have online, so those will be coming in shortly. So at Volume 9, we got to know a lot more about the CCG and Aogiri Tree, and dang, this page when I flipped to it, I was like, wow, Kaneki really put some work in. And we also got to see Toka at the very end, and we kind of get to see how she feels for him and how she cares about him. So yeah, this was another very heartwarming yet very interesting volume just because of all the information that we were getting about the CCG and the Aogiri Tree. And this dived more into Kaneki's story and journey as he kind of leaves Toka and the cafe. And yeah, I watched the anime a long time ago, and so I'm not really sure what happens after this. So yeah, I really can't wait to get the next several volumes and to start reading those as well. And if you guys haven't checked out Tokyo Ghoul yet, the manga, you guys should definitely do it, even if you've already watched the anime. I watched the anime a while ago, but I think that the manga does greater justice to the entire story and to the characters from what I've read so far. So yeah, definitely try and pick this up. And of course, and the quality of these Viz signature editions are beautiful. I really love the matte texture. These are really nice to hold, and they're not too small either. They're a comfortable size to read from. Highly recommend. And we'll definitely be reading the next couple volumes in the upcoming month if I get them on time. Alright, the next series that I've read is One Punch Man, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have read this one as well. One Punch Man is superb. I watched a couple episodes of the anime back when it first came out on Netflix, so I only remember like the first couple episode storylines. So yeah, it was very fun to get reintroduced to all the characters and the plot and the premise of the entire story. So yeah, we get introduced to the main character Saitama, who is very different from all the other heroes that you've ever seen in any other shonen or American comics story. Yeah, he's very aloof, but also very charming. Yeah, there, that base. This particular volume 1 basically sets up the entire story of Saitama and also introduces his disciple who comes looking for him to gain more strength. The art is amazing, of course. We love the artist. He does such a great job, Yusuke Murata. And so yeah, I really thoroughly enjoyed this volume. One Punch Man is hilarious, and even though it might not seem like it comes off as a comedy, actually maybe, just from the name itself and the appearance of Saitama. But yeah, this series does so well in creating a really fun and comedic atmosphere with all the characters, even in intense fights and situations. So yeah, I'm really amazed at the storytelling and also the hilarious art. So I recommend definitely picking this up if you haven't already. I found myself laughing thousands of times out loud when reading this volume. If you guys ask any of my family members who were around me when I was reading this, I was definitely laughing out loud like a creep. Because this series is just so wonderfully well written, the comedic effects are really well done and effective. So yeah, I read volumes 1 and volume 2. Volume 2 was just as great as the first one. Gives more insight into this doctor's backstory and how he came up with his artificial evolution house. And we also get introduced to this character, this ninja guy. Again, love the art and loving the story so far. I unfortunately do not have volume 3 right now, but that will be coming in real soon. And after that, I can binge read the entire rest of the series because I do have volumes 4 through 19. And yeah, you gotta love One Punch Man. The anime is amazing and the manga is amazing as well. I really enjoyed reading this series this month. This was definitely one of the highlights of this month. It's just so hilarious and a really lighthearted read. Alright, the next series that I read was one of the most amazing series that I read this month as well. Honestly, I'm going to say that about every series that I read this month. I just really liked every single one, and I'm so glad that I picked these up. But anyways, the next series that I'm talking about is Argent The DemiHuman. I kind of started reading this series off with the notion that this was going to be like a horror and with very dark elements to it, and part of that is true. This series definitely is very dark, but it also is very heartwarming and talks a lot about friendship and morality and what it means to basically be a human and fight for what you think is right. There are many times in this volume when I found myself rooting for the main character and also kind of questioning humanity. It was very hard for me to decide who to root for at some points in time because the humans definitely have done very wrong things in this series, but then again, not all of them are ill-hearted. So this series definitely makes you think, and it also is a very well done thriller. The art is amazingly horrific and terrifying, especially if you're reading this at nighttime. I'm not sure if I can find a panel here to show you. So you just look at this. Isn't this kind of terrifying at nighttime if you just saw this? And yeah, the art is so well done. It definitely gives you the dystopian, science-y vibe, which I think is the effect that they were going for. So yeah, the panels are so well drawn. I think the story is really well written as well. It's very unique. It's definitely different than what I expected going into this series. So yeah, I read volume 1 when he finds out that he is actually a demi-human, and I also read volume 2, which is unfortunately the only other volume that I have of this series. This volume was super engaging. We got to learn more about the incident that all the researchers were really scared to mention. Really does make you question humanity, question science and life. And I know this sounds all really deep, but if you guys read this series, you guys will know what I'm talking about. It's amazing so far, and I really can't wait to get the next couple volumes of this series. I really can't think of anything bad to say or any complaints that I have with this series besides these volumes being a tad expensive for its size. They retail for $12.95 each, and they are published by Vertical. But again, this is an awesome series, and I think the quality of the volume is pretty nice too. All the pages feel pretty thick and sturdy. So yeah, I guess it's justified. Yeah, it would just take me a while to collect the rest of this. I know latest current volume is 16, I think. But yeah, Argent The DemiHuman, absolutely fantastic. I definitely need to rewatch the anime of this. Absolutely phenomenal series. If you're into horror, thriller, adventure, sci-fi, action, anything like that, highly recommend checking this out. And there we go. Alright, the next series is very different from the past couple series that I've mentioned, and that would be Haru Ride. Yeah, sorry for the weird formation, just don't want this to fall off. But yeah, I actually read this complete series over again in Japanese this past month. If you guys have watched my other videos and my haul video of this particular set, you guys would know that I've already read this series multiple times online before in English, probably 5 to 6 years ago, but I know that I really wanted to own them physically, so I ended up getting the Japanese versions because I've already read the English ones so many times. So I wanted to reread this in Japanese and to basically help like motivate my learning, but also revisit the series because this is an absolutely wonderful series. It's one of my favorite shoujo series. So yeah, the first 4 volumes are wrapped in this plastic bag that it came in with. So once I read it, I just put it back into the plastic bag to keep it safe like that. But I'm just going to grab volume 5, which is the first one that is not wrapped, and flip through that so I won't spoil any of the later volumes to you guys. And I recently mentioned on my Instagram that these two are one of my favorite sequences of covers. Just look at that. It's so beautiful. Okay. Anyways, so if you guys don't know this series, it is by Io Sakisaga, one of the most iconic shoujo. We have Haru Ride, Strobe Edge, and now we have Love Me Not that is coming out in an anime movie adaptation. I'm not sure if it came out already, but I'm really excited for that. And so yeah, we have 2 characters that kind of grew up in middle school together, but then the guy moves away, but then he comes back later in high school after a couple years. And basically in middle school, they both had crushes on each other, but they were too scared or they had some other problems that they were dealing with, so they couldn't really confess to each other. And before I continue talking, look at this super cute banner. Yeah, I'm just gonna stick this there forever. I don't know, I just really like the feeling of having these in this in the book as a mini surprise. I'm not going to flip too far into the series, but anyways, yeah, so they weren't able to tell their feelings to each other in middle school, and now in high school, when they first reunited, they really weren't sure of their feelings toward each other. But as you can guess, as time moves forward and they are in the same class and stuff, they grow closer, but then at the same time, there are also a lot of issues that stand in their way, like other shoujo mangas. And I think one of the reasons why I really like this series so much in comparison to other shoujo mangas is that I think this one is more realistic. I know that is a very far-fetched claim because this is a shoujo manga, and shoujo mangas are technically not ever realistic because all the characters don't really act the way actual people would. If you guys already have read the series, maybe you guys would know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to continue and give spoilers. I will give you the timestamp for when it is safe to come back right now. Okay, so for those of you guys who are okay with spoilers or who have already read the series, you guys would know that basically she gets rejected because he chooses the other girl that he was trying to help and the girl that he kind of bonded with. So all of you guys would know this girl. Yeah, that girl. And so he basically chooses to stay with the other girl in order to not hurt her feelings. So basically at that point they are separated. But then unlike other shoujo mangas where I would typically think that the girl would go after the guy, since the guy decided to stay with another girl, I thought that the main protagonist, the girl character, would kind of fight her way and just be very strong-headed and say, oh no, no matter you know what, I still need you, and you know, and be kind of selfish in that sort of sense. But this series doesn't do that. she decides to just accept it, and since she knows that the other girl really needs him too, so she decides to accept that and decides to move on with her life and tries to heal herself in her own natural possible way. Although I don't necessarily agree with her using the other guy, the second main male lead. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting names. I'm really bad at names. But yeah, the second main lead guy who becomes her boyfriend later on. Yeah, I kind of disagree with how she used him, kind of. I don't really like that part about it, but I think it's pretty realistic in a sense how she tries to move on. Well, even when the guy comes back, she definitely hesitates and kind of gets angry like any real person would, since, you know, he kind of messed with her feelings too. So sorry if this was confusing for those of you who have not read this series but decided to stay for the spoilers. But if you guys are intrigued by what I just said, please go definitely check this out. And if you guys have already read this series, please let me know what you think of this series overall, because I know I really do love this shoujo series in comparison to some other typical shoujo series. I just think this one is definitely more unique, and I think the problems that the main leads face are pretty realistic as well, and definitely dive a little bit deeper into overall mental health, responsibilities, and friendship and love. And I think that these are really important features of life because the guy is kind of burdened by the responsibility to take care of the girl, but since she lost her family too. So I think it really does tie into a lot of different aspects that other shoujo series might not. But anyways, I have talked way too long about this series. I'm just really into this series, and again, I really love Strobe Edge as well. So if you guys have checked out Aha Ride but have not checked out Strobe Edge, definitely do so. And I have not read Love Me, Love Me Not by the same author, but I'm pretty sure it will be outstanding as well once I start reading that, since I do have the first 4 volumes of that in my collection. So as you can tell, this is in Japanese, and I read through Japanese so slowly, so this entire series took me a month to read, basically, because I have a lot of vocab that I am unfamiliar with. So I had to do a lot of sticky noting, searching up on the dictionary, and asking my parents what certain words meant. This was definitely not an easy read for me, but it really helped that I already knew this series from reading the English publications so many times before that. But yeah, it was definitely a fun experience, and I'm really proud of myself for actually managing to finish reading this. So yeah, there we go. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble on. Yeah, let's move on to our final series. All right, the final volume that I've read this month is dun dun dun. I'm pretty sure all of you guys know, Berserk Deluxe Edition Volume 3. Wow, what an absolutely wonderful volume, or collection of 3 volumes. I think out of the 3, this one was my favorite. I know this is not the peak yet, but it's climbing slowly and slowly towards the peak. Volume 2 set up the backstory really well, and Volume 3 continued that backstory of the Golden Age arc, and we get to kind of see where everything kind of goes wrong. I think this volume did such a wonderful job of just relaying all of the emotions of all the different characters and basically why they do what they do, because we know that in this series Guts decides to leave the Band of the Hawk, and it's understandable, and we kind of root for him, but also at the same time when he does come back, I felt so relieved and so happy at the same time. But meanwhile, there are other things going wrong in so many other places, and I can just tell that all of these different features and little parts will all come together in the next volume or the next 2 to kind of culminate in some big thing that I know I've heard so many people talk about, and I'm so excited to get to that point. I'm not going to try and spoil too much of this because I know a lot of you guys are interested in reading this on your own but haven't started yet, since these volumes are quite monstrous to read through and to collect as well. Yeah, and I was actually thinking about collecting the single, since I know the deluxes are releasing so slowly, but I know that ultimately I do want to collect the deluxe editions, so I'm not sure how I'm gonna go about that, since I know the deluxe edition volume 6 is coming out soon, but that is still a far whiles away from catching up to where the series is now. And yeah, I think in this volume we also learn a lot more about Casca and Griffith's relationship. It is so endearing most of the time. It was also really heartbreaking in many times as well. The story just continues to get better and better, and I feel so invested in each of the characters. It is such a wonderful experience, and also seeing Griffith's emotions when things happen is also definitely a sight to see. And as I said before, I'm not going to flip through too many pages, but yeah, again, the panels are so wonderfully well drawn. I could easily take any of these and put these as my wallpaper on my phone or something because they are just so mesmerizing to look at. So if you guys have still not checked out Berserk, it is so wonderful. I previously have never dived into this genre before of like dark fantasy, but it is a wonderful genre to be in, especially with Berserk being the title series for this genre. It's absolutely wonderful, and I'm really interested in getting other series that are like this as well. Vagabond is a common one that people bring up, Blade of the Immortal, so I'm definitely very interested in getting those after reading up to this volume of Berserk. So I have Deluxe Edition Volume 4 on the way, and I'm so excited for that. It is going to take me probably only 2 days to breeze through this series because it's just such a fascinating read, and once you start, you cannot put it down. It feels painful, like physically, to actually, well, not physically, but it just feels painful to just stop in the middle of the series. And I know some of you guys who are subscribed to me also really love to collect figurines and figures. After reading this series, I was so invested in this series and all the characters that I was actually considering getting a figure, but then I don't know if I want to dive into that realm because once I get started, I'm going to get addicted. And I know figures are definitely not cheap. So yeah, maybe something I'll think about in the future, but yeah, my first exposure to figures and my first desire to get one stems from this series, so yeah. Alright, so that's it for my monthly reading log. I really loved every single series that I read this month, and I think it was a very successful reading month for me, as I personally don't read that fast and venture into multiple series usually, but I think the ones that I decided to start reading this month are really wonderful as well. So yeah, we've got Berserk, classic, Tokyo Ghoul, classic, absolutely loving it, Bakuman, a slowed read for me personally, but I'm very intrigued in how the rest of the story comes out and where the main characters get to go in terms of their manga. One Punch Man, an absolute legend of a series. I will definitely be reading 3 once that comes in and reading the rest of the series. Argent, it pains me so much. I really want to get the rest of the volumes, but they're so expensive. But this will definitely be on the top of my to-buy list. I am very invested in this series after just reading the first 2 volumes. I think absolutely wonderful series. Really loving it so far. And final, Our Haru Ride, one of my top shoujo manga recommendations. I think it is the pinnacle of shoujo manga. It incorporates everything, and I think it is one of the mangas that are most realistic and also heart-wrenching and really tugs at your heartstrings. There's so many other shoujo mangas that I really do love out there that I will be recommending to you guys soon after I figure out my own list in my head, because I just have so many floating up there in my head as my favorites. So I should really organize that, and I will let you guys know, because I know a lot of you guys ask for my shoujo manga recommendations. But yeah, so that's it for this month. I will definitely be reading these series next month as well, with a couple more extra other volumes, and I have some very fun and exciting hauls and other kinds of videos coming up for you guys, so I really hope you guys will enjoy that in the future. And yeah, so thank you guys for sticking around. I know not many of you guys watch these monthly reads videos because, you know, to be honest, it doesn't really matter what I read, you know, as long as you guys are enjoying what you guys read and are having fun with that, you know, that's all that matters. But yeah, for those of you guys who did end up watching this, thank you so much, and yeah, let me know what you guys have read down below this month and whether you enjoyed it or not, or if you guys have any other recommendations based on what I've been reading this month. Please let me know, and I'll definitely be on the lookout for those. Well, thank you so much. See you guys in my next video, and have a great day. Stay safe. Bye.